Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, we're going to be talking about a simple shielding working, and that is the 3 rings of protection. Now this is a working that I've actually been doing for my entire magical practice. It's one of the first forms of shielding and actually one of the first things that I ever learned to do as a beginner practitioner, and I've continued to work with this technique for the entire duration of my magical practice. For me anyway, I really wanted to start with protection just so that I knew exactly how to keep myself spiritually and energetically safe. Now, I'm not entirely certain on where this originated from. It's been over a decade. I kind of get a little foggy on the exact details. I have tried to have a look for the original source and have found it in several different books and in several different blogs, articles, and forums. So the originator of this has kind of got a little bit lost over time. So if you do know who created this, feel free to let me know down in the comment section. But as far as I can tell, it's kind of a general thing that is done in slightly different ways by a lot of different people. So this particular working is a temporary shield. Now there's lots of levels of protection workings within witchcraft. A temporary shield is exactly that. It's a very short-term active working that allows you to put up barriers to protect you from spirits and from energies. Now for me, I used to use this as my circle casting technique. Now for any of you that have seen my updated circle casting video, I will link it up here. That is my current technique. This is my older technique. Both do work, they're just slightly different. And I do also use this technique even still if I need a little extra temporary protection, if there are spirits around that I don't want to interact with me, if there's energies around that I really don't want interfering with my energy, I will put this up as a very temporary barrier. Now there are a few things that you're probably going to need to learn and need to know how to do before you attempt this style of working. And that's because it's a very energy driven working. It's pure energy shields that we are going to be putting up today. So ideally, you're going to want to be able to visualize if you can. If you aren't able to visualize, being able to talk yourself through what it is that you want to mentally see is another good way of doing it. And you're also going to need to be able to energy manipulate, to be able to control your personal energy and to direct it as you see fit. And that's all you need. It's a very, very simplistic form of spiritual shielding. It doesn't take items, it doesn't take a lot of energy, and it is very quick and easy to do as long as you are practiced in doing it. And that's the same with everything. The first time you try this, it's going to take a little while, but the more you practice and the more you put the shields up again and again and again, the easier it's going to be. So personally, I would recommend attempting this on many an occasion before you actually need it. This is one of those practices that does take time to master. So I would say just sit in your bedroom, sit in your living room in a quiet space and just do this again and again and again over several days, weeks, months. And that way, when you actually need it, you will be able to do this really quickly and really, really effectively. So to actually do this, the idea is that you are going to be creating 3 shields. So it's the 3 rings of protection. Another name for it is the 3 blue rings of protection. Now, the idea behind this is that you are going to be shielding something in the center. That could be you, that could be someone else, that could be an item. But it's important to remember that it is an active shield. You're constantly going to be putting energy into it. So it needs to be something close by. It's not something that you can shield from 100 meters away. You need to be relatively close to be able to maintain that energy frequently. So to start off with, I'd recommend doing it for yourself because it's much easier to do to start off with if you are the item, you are the object in the center of the rings. So you're going to start by centering your energy. You're then going to want to ground your energy, draw up energy from the earth. I do have a video on both centering and grounding that can be really useful for these techniques. I'll also stick it up here and it will be in the description box as well. Now this will center your energy together so it's in a focused point. You're then going to want to ground that energy and then draw up that neutral energy from the earth. So you can do this with other items, whether they be objects of power, they might be stones, crystals, tools, items, things that possess energy that you can draw on. But I find that the earth is a really great way of doing it because it is a consistent ever replenishing form of neutral energy. So I ground myself, you draw up that energy into your focal point. This is often anywhere down the midline of the body. For me, it often manifests in my stomach. I just think with my stomach apparently, whether that is magically or physically, I'm not quite sure why, but this can appear in lots of different places along the midline depending on you as a person. And then you're going to want to direct that energy out and into the hands. So once you've got that energy gathered in your hands, now for some people this might feel tingly, it might feel cold, it might feel warm. For me it feels a little bit like static electricity, that kind of sparky feeling. You're then going to want to push it out and create a ring around you in blue energy. Now you can do whatever energy color works best for you, but for me it's always been blue, hence why I've always called this the blue rings of protection. Now this initial ring should be close to you. It should be just past your shoulders and it's going to go up to head height. So you're going to start with this ring, pushing that energy out around you. And once you've got that ring and you can maintain that ring, you're then going to do another ring. Now this ring is going to be outside of that first narrow ring. You're doing one outside of it. And this is going to go up. So it's going to go higher than the ring before, but not crazy high. So you're going to want this to be the in-between ring. If you're doing this inside, my recommendation is the first ring comes up to shoulder height, the second ring comes between shoulder height and the ceiling, and then the third ring is going to be ceiling height. So it really seals that energy in. So you're going to be creating this second ring. Now, this is where it takes a little bit of focus and practice, and it is likely going to take several attempts to get it right for the people that are just starting out in energy work, is that you have to maintain each ring as you are creating the next. So each one needs to be equally as strong, and it can take a lot of focus to maintain these inner rings while you're creating the rings around it. So you're going to want to constantly be drawing up that energy from the earth, and you're going to be creating that secondary ring. And this is going to come up higher than the ring before it. Once you've got those and you're maintaining that energy, you're then going to want to raise a third ring. Now this ring is going to be even further out than the first. Now to start off with, you might want to do them quite close together, and then as time goes on, you can make them further and further apart, so you can really broaden the shielded area. So you're going to create this final ring, and that's going to go as high as you want. Now, if you're inside, I typically cap it at the ceiling because it's much easier to visualize the room that you are physically in because you can actively see it. Now, I do recommend actually putting a cap over this. So as you are creating that third ring, as you're getting it all the way up to the ceiling or as high as you want it to go, you're going to want to create an energy seal over the top of all three of those rings. So all of that energy is contained within, but also you're stopping anything from getting in from the top that you don't want to get in. And by doing this, you can really push 3 levels of protection out there. So everything within the 3 rings is protected, but it creates 3 barriers that energy spirits have to pass through. So you want the thing that you are protecting to be in the very center of that middle ring. And then once the last one is put up, you're going to need to maintain it. Now, just like with any kind of exercise, it's going to take a while to be able to get yourself to focus on protecting whilst being able to do other things. It's a little like, tapping your head and rubbing your stomach. It takes a little bit extra focus and it takes a while to get used to doing it. So if you're using this as your magical circle, so your circle casting for ritual, it's worth doing this multiple times without having to do spell work and ritual inside of it, because it can be a little tricky to focus on the spell work and the ritual whilst you're maintaining these 3 rings of protection. If you're using this to shield yourself and to protect yourself during spiritual encounters or just from interfering energies, it is a little bit easier because you can focus on maintaining those rings consistently for the entire time that you need need them. Now, once you no longer need them, you're going to want to reverse the effect. So don't just break them all and let the energy go, because then you're just wasting all of that energy. You're just releasing it. It's very different than a spell, for instance. During spell work, you're going to want to be raising that energy, and then at the end of spell work, you release it, and it's the releasing of it that assists in returning a magical response. When it comes to shielding, it's the active presence of the energy that is what creates the shield. If you are a fan of Harry Potter, I would consider it a little bit like a Patronus charm, whereas rather than the spiritual energy or the spirits interacting with you, instead they are interacting with the walls of the shield instead. And if you are dealing with something like an energy vampire, a psi vampire, or just an energy leech, then this form of protection can be quite good as well, but you may only need 1 ring instead of 3. And then that person may feed off the energy of the protection rather than feeding off your personal energy. So you don't necessarily want to just release that energy, because it has done its job simply by existing. So instead of just breaking those walls and the energy just dissipating, it is really good to give it back to the earth again. So anything you've taken from the earth, it's really good to give back. So you're going to want to do it in the reverse. So the last thing you did was create that cap across the top. So you're going to want to remove that cap and draw that energy back into the walls of that last shield, that last ring. You're then going to want to lower the outside ring, bring that energy back in again. Lower the middle ring, bring that energy back in. Finally, lower the internal ring, bring that energy back in again. You can then center your energy again, so it goes back into its initial kind of location on your core pillar, and then you can ground the excess energy back into the earth. Don't ground all of the energy if you do need to retain some, because it can lead to similar side effects of having an energy drain. So you might feel really tired afterwards, you might feel really hungry, those kind of things. So keep the energy that you need to maintain your energy in your own self, but give anything back to the earth that you drew up from the earth. So that way you are returning that energy back to its neutral source, rather than just having it dissipate into absolute nothing. And then that is the full working done. Now, it's obviously going to take time as you get started. It can take a lot of motion as well. So during this example, I was using this motion, which is the motion that I initially started with when I was doing this circle casting. Spinning round in circles makes me really, really dizzy. So instead, I use this motion of both hands going round to symbolize the expansion of that energy round into that ring. You might want to cast these rings in a clockwise motion and then return them with an anti-clockwise motion. That is an option if you like that technique. You might want to have physical imagery on the floor that shows you where the boundaries are. Now, these can all be done at the start and then be taken away as you're going through the practice of doing this. It might be that at the very start, you need physical representation items, and then you can take those back as you are slowly getting better and better at this. As you do get better, you might find that you no longer need to do any kind of motion at all. You might just be able to sit, center, ground, move that energy out, and just push out these 3 rings one after another, and it will just become easier and easier and easier, because it is one of those, it's almost like an energetic muscle memory. The more you do it, the easier it is to be able to do it again. And that's why with all protections, especially active shields like this isn't the same as a ward or a barrier. These typically are passive. They usually contain items of power that they draw their energy from, so that you as a practitioner don't have to constantly be maintaining the energy. This is a very, very energy draining form of shield, and that is why it is really only temporary. So it's definitely going to take time to practice it. It's definitely worth doing this again and again and again before you actually need it. Because when you do need that spiritual defense, it's really good to be able to put it up really, really quickly, rather than having to take 5-10 minutes to cast it. But that all comes with time. So don't beat yourself up if it does take you a while. It's definitely something that comes with practice. So that is today's video. It was very short for me, wasn't it? I have been getting a lot of people asking me to do some shorter videos, so here is one of them that you guys have been asking for a really, really long time. And I actually really love this particular working. I will still use it when I need really quick temporary protections. I will use this on objects and items that need temporary protection. I have even used this on individuals who can't put up their own protections yet in small group environments as just a way of giving shields to other people who maybe don't know how to do it yet. So it is really, really versatile, but if you do need more longer term protection, I would recommend using protection charms, wards, or just general barriers that draw energy off an empowered item rather than personal energy, because that does get really, really draining really, really quick. So if you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a like. Do you like the shorter videos? Do you like my longer videos? I would love to know which kind of style you prefer. Have you done this working? Do you do something similar? Please let me know, because from my research, I found that a lot of people have a very, very similar technique that they do. So I'd love to know if you do something similar. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community, feel free to post a comment down in the comment section. We do have a Discord server, which is linked in the description box, where you guys can just chat with each other and to other magical practitioners about protections and shields, and honestly, just anything witchcraft related. That is linked down there. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I do try my best to post magical content every single week. So I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you have a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Did I just do that on one take? What is this? Did I? That is amazing. If I manage to do that on one take, this will be the quickest video I've ever had to film.